Florence says her husband threw acid at her shortly after their separation.
Nempira omutunga mpita erinnya lyange nali nfuluma nga ndowooza oba muntu mulala nanjira asidi kuva ku olwo paka ne leero ne nfuuka went.
But she still has vivid memories of the pain book until now.
Kitunga radio
Also shattered her future goals. The mother of two hits the streets every day to beg so as to fend for her family.
nze mbeera wano ne ntoba ne nfuna ne mbasasulira era mbasizifunye mbabanga okusoma tekuliiyo.
Florence too does not love what she does, but she has to fend for herself and the family. But she still regrets why she married the man who eventually led her to this situation. We set off to Florence's home in Zana, which is about 4 miles from the city center. Florence comes from here every morning and only gets help from some good Samaritans on a few occasions. This room is what Florence, her 2 children and a caretaker call home. They rent it at 40,000 shillings per month. By the time of our visit, Florence's 2 sons were at school. This elderly lady, called Agnes Nasuna, has taken care of Florence since the day her husband threw acid at her.
Nemujjanjaba okulemba kutanda emyezi ng'etaano nga mujjanjaba ne tukomawo ne ngamba ati kati eri ewala sijja kuddayo lwakuba mu ddwaliro tulina okuddayo buli kiseera sijja kufuna transport atwalanga buli lunaku.
Nasuna sells foodstuff and uses part of her money to supplement the handouts Florence gets from begging.
Oluusi ffe tulwawo okulya olw'okufuna ebintu byonna kaye naye n'agamba nange ati sikyalaba kankoleko byenkolako n'agamba nti muntwale nga mu ttawuni.
Often, when she looks back, Florence regrets the conditions that fate has thrown her way.
Singa embeera yantukako ng'oba nina we mbeera nga sikupangisa sandibadde nnyo n'ennaku nnyingi nnyo ba okweraliikirira n'okutya. Kale kye kisinga ow'ennyumba ayinza okubanja nga tozirina eno abaana bataga fiizi beetaago bingi.
Florence now bases her hopes for a better future on people's kindness. Gertrude Tumusime Uitkware, NTV.
A sad story there. All public servants and government service providers will have a direct way to contact the Finance Ministry in case they have issues with payments and disbursement of funds from the central government. According to the Finance Ministry, a call center is in the offing, and this will help increase the efforts towards accountability and the value for money campaign that the government has embarked on. Samuel Setumba reports.
It's a question that we should know. The occasion was the 22nd Joseph Mubiru Memorial Lecture, today at Serena Hotel, discussing transparency and accountability. It's where the Finance Minister affirmed that soon government workers and service providers can report accounting officers who don't pay them, among other things, for accountability direct to the Finance Ministry.
We are also finalizing, by the end of this month, a call center where you can call with your specific complaints, your specific queries. My salary has not been paid. My name is so-and-so. My identification number is so-and-so. I'm from such and such a district. I'm a teacher, I'm a nurse, I'm whatever. My salary has not been paid for the last X period. What about it? And you will get a response.
The keynote speaker for the day was Mamfera Ramfere, the former managing director for World Bank. She argued that brain drain was the result of leadership that mostly ignored equity and was not proactive at caring for its citizens.
There are more African graduates living in the OECD countries over the last 5 years, 450,000, than Chinese. Now remember, there are more Chinese and there are more graduates among the Chinese.
Thus, the hospitals continue lacking medical staff and schools lacking good teachers while they go to grow other economies. Then the other problem where leadership is about accumulation of personal wealth instead of service, a legacy of colonialism.
The highly unequal colonial and apartheid societies we inherited at the moment of our history's liberation infected us with what is called the affluenza. virus. This distress stems from our fear of being left behind in the race for power, for affluence. We tend to place high value on acquiring money and possessions.
You're watching Morning at NTV, coming to you live from the NTV studios. We now cross over to the gentleman on the rooftop of the Kampala Serena Hotel to find out what's making news in the press. Good morning, Brian.
Well, this morning we wake up to the story in the Daily Monitor of 40% of Makerere students failing to pay tuition fees. Where looking at that and more, and of course, a shocking health revelation in the red paper that the toothpaste you are using might actually be the problem. Get ready. August 2014, and this morning we're still at the rooftop of the Kampala Serena Hotel, joined by Joel Senyonyi. Good morning, Joel.
Good morning.
And Kasiate away in Jinja because the Katikiro is going to be visiting
Etofali.
Yes, Kasiate will be donating his Etofali. Have you donated?
No, I have not.
I thought you were Ugandan. You donate.
I'm Ugandan. Every Ugandan is supposed to donate.
Yes.
Why?
Because it's part of, you know,
I don't know.
it's a World Heritage Site, so you contribute so that it's restored.
Yeah, those that contribute, good. Those that for one reason or another don't contribute, no problem. I pay taxes in this country, and
Really,
I
Joel?
expect that, you know, being a World Heritage Site, you know, the government should put that structure
Government
together.
gave money, so we also need
which
to
is
be
good.
a part of it.
Well, I guess I've not really been caught up in, you know, the whole drive, and so that's why I've not given. Not that giving is bad, that's not what I'm saying, but I have not given yet. Perhaps they should come here on morning
You've
and
not
interview
given
one of
yet.
these good days.
Okay,
one of these
that's
days.
good.
I have not seen where to find them. So
If you
I
can
don't
send
know.
an SMS, you know.
To who?
To
The Katikiro?
yes.
You give me his number after the
Yes,
show.
and you participate. At least when you die, it's the one thing that you say, I was part of
Really?
the Kasovitombs.
I don't know.
Well, of course, Simon will be back tomorrow. But this morning, Joel, on this headline, I don't know if it shocks me. 40% of Makerere students failing to pay tuition fees.
It doesn't come as a shocker. See, parents bend their backs over backwards, you know, to try and put together tuition and so on, and Makerere apparently is increasing that by about 10%. And you see, it's a catch-22 kind of situation, because you see, if they increase the tuition, parents, for starters, are not able, you know, to meet the current tuition cost. Yeah?
Right.
But then also the university needs money to run. Government is not giving them as adequate money as they need to run that institution, you know. So where is the money going to come from, you know?
Right.
So at the end of the day, even if there are issues of incompetence, etc., truth is money is not enough for the meals, for the tutorials, etc., you know, research and so on. Lecturers are on strike again and again, money issues, you know. So money has got to come from somewhere at the end of the day.
Instead of increasing tuition fees, are there alternatives that the university can, you know, start working on so that they get money from those sources? Because if more and more students can't afford, who is going to go to Makerere?
But why has everybody got to go to Makerere? I'll tell you, there's students at
Because it's
university.
the best university in the country.
Yeah, but you see, they are there, and what are they studying? You know, courses have been diluted. There are courses that were back in the day now, they've been, you know, split apart, and you find the course that used to be one block. Now even course units have become courses for that matter. And so students graduate, they've done these courses, little known courses, and it's hard for them to get employed. Yesterday we were talking with Kasiate about vocational institutes. I think we have broken them down in this country, and yet that's where the jobs are. That's where the real jobs are. Yeah, so I think we need to encourage, you know, young people to try and do this. It's a tall order, but I think we should. Not everybody has got to go to Makerere, for goodness sake. Universities, on an annual basis, you know, release quite a bit of students, churn them out there into the job market. Do they actually get employed? You and I know that's not the case. So everybody has, you know, doesn't have to go to Makerere, but money has got to come from somewhere at the end of the day.
Well, I can tell you for sure, Professor Dumba has a job on his hands there to make the university run, but also make it affordable. You can grab a copy of the Daily Monitor to get the details of the story.
It's interesting what the lizard here. The lizard seems to ask, and who will come to their rescue?
Well, Must be their
Considering-
parents, I guess. The front page of the Daily Monitor having police, and they say police put a smile on Sanyu Baby's home. And isn't it good to see a human face?
You know, for quite a bit of time, the police has been, you know, hounded by the public. Not too long ago, there was a report released that said Ugandans trust the army more than they do trust police. Of course, that can be explained away with the exculpation of, look, the police is always with the people. You know, when there are riots, it's the police that comes out. The army is always in the barracks. They rarely come out, you know.
Right.
But truth is, there's a huge trust issue between Ugandans and the police. And the police needs to do a great deal to try and put the image together, to try and, you know, put a good face. So this is a good way. I hope they keep doing this. I hope so.
All right, Sironko people's protest over National Music Fete, and of course, I remember back in the day we used to come to Kampala. You know, you could have all these Bwera Nyanje schools and.
So you went to Bwera Nyanji?
No. Okay.
How long ago was that?
By default. And it was one of those days to look forward to, because, you know, you got an opportunity to see original, for lack of better,
what?
original Homo sapiens, for lack of a better word. But of course, we know the care of the National Theatre. And, for more of that, you can grab yourself a copy of the Daily Monitor. World Health Organization okays trial drug on Ebola patients.
At the end of the day, it's a tricky situation, because who are they trying this on? Definitely they're going to bring them to Africa, and there will be this whole talk of, you see, Africans, we are guinea pigs, everything is tried out on us, etc., etc. But people are dying, you know, so you're thinking, maybe we'll give it a try.
Yes.
It's another catch-22 situation again, you know, because who knows what it is about. You've heard many times people saying, no, we should stop to be guinea pigs. You know, everything can be tried on us like we are animals and that kind of thing. But our people are dying. In Liberia, Sierra Leone, you see people on the streets, dead bodies on the streets.
Yes.
What? Ebola.
Right.
So maybe we should give it a try and see.
And
how
you
it
know,
goes.
at the start, when the US came up with this trial drug, of course, there was a debate that, do you have to do a trial drug during an outbreak? And so that was, you know, that was overruled. Say, okay, we can't wait for people to die
Better late than never.
because we are waiting for the outbreak to stop. Because
What if it does not stop?
What if it
You
doesn't?
know, over 1,000 people have died so far. So
Yeah, and then 2 Americans get sick, and then it's
flown to the
important
US
that,
and
yes,
so on.
that they work on them. But the world still says, why are you working on 2 people, yet over 1,000 are dying in Africa? So,
well, to cut them some slack, and I know I might sound callous here when I say this, look, build your own capacity, you know. The US, you know, flew in jets, evacuated these fellows, they've got, you know, equipment, etc., to work on them. Maybe we should do the same here, because again, that's another situation of help us, and you see, if they're not helping us, then we complain. You're working on your people and you're not working on ours. Well, it's the taxpayers' money, so perhaps we should build capacity here at
Right.
home as well, and hopefully that works for us. Now, I see the Daily Monitor here. Leader of opposition is on the spot over corruption utterances. It was a Sunday Monitor where it was reported that leader of opposition did say that there are about 18 opposition members of parliament that were given between 110 and 150 million shillings. And the chief whip, the government chief whip, is coming out to challenge him and say, look, you've got to substantiate this. And I think my good old friend Waf should come out, you know, because if he says there are members that took this money, can we have the names? We need to know who these are.
and now I don't understand this. This is complete hypocrisy.
Which
WAF on Sunday, WAF said that opposition members had actually gotten money. Now he's asking for substantiation. What's that?
No, it is the chief whip, the government chief whip, that is asking for that. And, well, I think we should cut some slack to the leader of opposition. If he says there are people that took this money, now he's got opportunity to come out and say, okay, these are the people, let's investigate.
And
that kind of
you know,
thing.
yesterday we quoted, what's his name? The very energetic honorable.
Nani huyo?
Who said, you know, if the money is there, let's take it.
Powerful honorable. Are you talking about a one Odonga
Energetic, Odonga Oto,
Energetic.
who seemed to admit that the money was actually there. So I
The
don't
only
know
thing I
what
like about
Lumumba-
Oto is that he's a very blank fella. You know, if he took the money, he will not come out and pretend like the rest of everybody. But that doesn't mean that, you know, he ceases to be the dramatic fellow we've always known him to be, and so on. Now, JNRM caucus did meet, and apparently legislators are defying caucus resolution on anti-gays law. These people apparently did agree that let's set up a committee, you know, do some work headed by the Vice President for about a month, and then try and hear out the pro-gay community, what their issues are, etc., etc. And MPs are saying, you are kidding us. You know, we are running with this thing.
Is this the first thing, you know, someone yesterday was saying, oh, the president has summoned his children.
But he always does.
To Changkwanzi. How, for example, for me, I think this is probably one of the things that the president should let the MPs decide on. And clearly, if you know, they challenged him and told him, if you let this go, forget us.
What do they mean by forget them? I hear you when you say that...
Does he have the capacity to actually convince the MPs in the event that there's a hope that they'll overturn this decision and probably abandon the whole gay thing? Do our MPs have the ability to do that?
I think
or it's now an individual thing, like me, I'm against homosexuality. Whether the president convinces me or gives me 100 million or pays all my debts, I'm still going to vote a yes.
Look, at the end of the day, it's good that Parliament remains independent of the executive, that the executive does not roughshod over the legislature. But look at the modus operandi. You know, when these guys are campaigning, it's the president who goes and campaigns for them, etc. He wins them these seats. So at the end of the day, they don't belong to these members of parliament. Brian, it's just like if I go out and, what do the young people, they call it vibing, and I vibe a woman for you and I present her to you on your wedding day. At the end of the day, when I begin calling shots in your marriage, you're not going to complain and say, no, you leave us alone. Well, you didn't have the guts to go and look for the woman.
Yes.
Well, I know that might be a grotesque example. But look, at the end of the day, he didn't call them to actually request them. He always tells them, this is what you're going to do. And many times,
to deliver
they don't have an
instructions.
option, you know, which of course now one would think they should build a steel among themselves and say, look, we need to go out, win these constituencies on our own, and henceforth we're able to operate independently. That's not happening currently, and I think now it's becoming a tall order.
Find out what some of the MPs have to say about this resolution and also the anti-gay. It's now still a bill?
Well, the court nullified it, so unless government appeals, and the caucus apparently again told the Attorney General not to appeal.
Yes.
I don't know if he will not.
Because they want to take it back to Parliament and vote.
So now it gets back to
still a
ground
bill at
level,
the moment.
0 level. So there you have it.
Ex-Premier, sorry,
Go
please
for it.
go on. Ex-Premier Nsibambi quizzed over government vehicle. We're looking at some of the benefits that our leaders, ex-leaders get after. And the Prime Minister says he borrowed the car. And the Premier, Amama Mbabazi, was good enough to tell him, you know, I'd use the car for now. And when he probably gets his full emoluments, he can return the car.
Yeah, so was it an agreement between the current Prime Minister and the ex-Prime Minister? You know, that is where the challenge comes
Can't you
in.
just cut the man some slack and just let
It's
it go?
taxpayers'
Just
money.
one vehicle.
It's just one vehicle.
He's-
Just like the Prime Minister is driving one vehicle. Which one vehicle was, you know, bought using NUSAF money?
Right.
Just one vehicle. Should it bother you and I?
He's
Absolutely.
entitled to full benefits.
Yeah, he should get them the right
and
way.
he didn't have them. So should he wait? He's been an excellent, he was Prime Minister for 12 years. Can't you just let one car go to him?
It's just like, Brian, you come here faithfully every early morning and do this show. If NTV, for one reason or another, does not pay your salary for 2 months, I know they always pay you on time. But if after 2 months you've not gotten your salary and you carry out one of the cameras and you steal it, then tomorrow they find out this man stole our camera. And then you'll be like, no, let's cut him some slack. You see, he hadn't been paid, etc., etc. No. 2 wrongs don't make 1 right.
I hope that never happens.
Considering you have been a cameraman before, you know how to use these things. I hope you don't carry out one of them. Now, yesterday was International Youth Day, and as the president addressed young people, he said, look, stop being reckless sexually. That is, he castigated the youth over reckless sex. And I thought that comes in handy, although I did have my issues with International Youth Day. I had, you know, Monica Amoding. Now, Monica is my good friend, you know, so as I blast and lampoon her this morning, I'm lampooning a friend of mine. You know, she did say that, look, Your Excellency, we have moved around, all young people are behind you, and as young people we are saying, you know, the position of presidency is yours permanently for the rest of your life. I looked at this young lady and I was thinking, what are you high on? Which young people are you representing? Who did she go to consult? Whose views are those she's representing? You know, I think she needs to cease to be disingenuous and say, look, as Monica Amoding and the rest of her colleagues there, this is what we are saying. But for them to stand up and say, young people in this country are saying, go on permanently and be president. I did listen to her speech, so I'm not just saying this, you know, and keep being as president for the rest of your life. I was thinking this is absolute.
And the leaders of young people perpetuating the dependency syndrome, which we want to go away from. Because the more the young people are dependent on the government, the less they become productive, because they expect all these hand-ups. For example,
handouts.
Now,
instead of the hand-ups.
Instead of the hand-ups, we have 265 billion shillings released, and young people are waiting.
But it begins with their leaders. You know, the Monica Amodings
Yes.
are making that noise because they'll be fueled very well, you know. Of course, now, for Honorable Monica Amoding, her oiling is different from, you know, the
Anitas.
Well, the rest of the youth out there who will be given, I don't know, 5K, etc., etc. So these ones kneeling all over the place and, you know, trying to show their confusion all over the place. It is because they are very well oiled. You know, they want to keep, you know, having a bit of the cake. So at the end of the day, it's the same thing, you know. These leaders whom we think are representing them well and saying, look, these are the views of the young people. Which young people did you consult, my friend Monica Amoding?
Well, Joel, you have to cut Amoding some slack, because, again, the truth is young people are waiting for the president to do something, and their leverage is 2016.
Well, I hope we cease to use young people, because we have always used young people. Election time, that is when we call on them, do the right thing for us, go and steal votes for us, etc., etc., give them some monies, and then after the election we forget about them, and then we get back to them at the next election. That's absolute nonsense. It needs to stop.
So I guess the question should be, what should young people do so that they cease being used as collateral damage, especially when it comes to election time? Grab a copy of the Daily Monitor and you'll get the full story.
Quote of the day in the Daily Monitor, this is by Justice Benjamin Odoki on Chief Justice position. He says, I will not come back as Chief Justice, and you know it. I'm not interested, and I was never interested. This was just conferred on me. Now, this Justice is a good old man. He's a humble, calm, cool, collected man. I wish I believe him, but I find it, I'm hard-pressed to believe him, you know, especially that he comes out to say this after, you know, court annulled this. So I'm thinking, really good old judge, you should have come out way before. Because look, there was no noose around your neck to take this position by force, you know. So for you to say, I was never interested, I'm not interested. But you see, all this huffing and puffing has been for you. People have been making noise for your sake, but you're coming out now. Why?
The spirit of patriotism and service and national service is far beyond his individual interest. So if the president told him, boss, help me, increase, work until I get someone suitable, he didn't have a choice.
But he's saying he was never interested, so
yeah,
clearly
I can
what you're
never
saying
be
is
interested in what I do, but when I'm asked to step up to the plate, I go for it.
Then that should come out very clearly. Listen to this quote again. I will not come back as Chief Justice, and you know it. I'm not interested, and I was never interested. That was just conferred upon me. So you could say I'm not interested, but since the president asked me to, then I can take it up. That's not coming out.
Joel, you are definitely...
somebody, this letter of the day, I don't know whether you believe it. Somebody here says colonialists did a better job here. I've had this sentiment quite a bit. There's many people that have adumbrated to this effect. Do you believe it?
Yes.
Why?
And no.
Yes and no.
You know, there are a few structures that our white friends have that we are far from, you know, getting. And you see people who have them. You can, when you ask about them and trace some of their journey, you see that they've spent some time working for the white man, studying in, you know, say in London or the UK, and so they bring such structures here. But here for us, it's now corruption is becoming okay, like man. Million kumi, that's fine. It's okay. It's okay. So I must say yes. And you know, the other day I saw someone literally reaping money from a white man, you know, lying that he's building houses for orphans, then they put a paper on the house, then they take pictures. This person brings, you know, the pictures to my office to come work on them, and I told the lady, you know what, take this work away, because I don't want to be, but because those white people will come and look for me also.
But even if they don't, your conscience.
Yeah, it's, and you see, that's how we are. And I told them, by the way, you are going to eat these things one day, because that guy will find out. Why don't you just be transparent? Tell them, we failed to look for land, we failed to get houses, and they'll help you on that. But people are always looking for these creative ideas of getting and very few, maybe if you tell me white people are thieves, they will steal, but you'll see something done.
I don't know. That's a debate that can go on.
And it's always, you know, someone has told me before that corruption is not color, but at some point it has to come down to color. We are just
How? No. It's just I know black people. I know Ugandans that live a very honest and you know, good life. They don't steal
some
to
of
put
them
bread
do
on
not
their
have
table.
an option. They don't have a lot, you know, they control. Others have spent some time in the US, in the UK, so they've learned a few principles, okay?
No,
they've been exposed
because
to
I mean, again, corruption is not, you know, a thing that is not non-existent in the West. It is there. It's just that they've got systems in place. Systems so good, however much of a thief you are, I mean, you are deterred from doing that.
And it's what I'm saying. For example, if you're building...
So it's not because they are white so they don't steal. No. I know Ugandans that are good people, they don't steal.
I am one
our
of them.
systems
I am
enable
one
us
of them. I do not steal. If you give me your money, I will account for it to the T.
If I give you my money. Okay, after the show, be nice to me. I had a few coins here. We'll talk and see how it
But
goes.
you see, if say you're building the Northern Bypass, and some people have said, you know, for example, it works in the West like this. Building the Northern Bypass, we'll build your road. Maybe we'll overquote a bit. And so that's the new corruption. Or people use information. I know that in a couple of years, you will want Temangalo. So I go and buy Temangalo. And I sell it to you at a higher price. And I guess that's the new, you know, corruption. Not taking money right, you know.
Hey, wait a minute. If I buy a plot of land after, you know, a couple of months, it has accumulated, so I sell it to you higher, I'm being corrupt?
But yeah, I used information, and that's what the Premier was being accused for.
No. The issue of the Premier was totally different. You know, he was accused that he used his position as a government official, you know, to try and pull ropes. Whether or not that was true, well, apparently he was exonerated, but that was the issue. Not of, I have bought something today, Brian. I can actually go buy this watch now. After 5 minutes, I meet you, and if I say I've bought it at, give it a price, let's say 5,000 shillings. That's not how much it costs.
If I know,
and
Joel,
I meet you 1 hour later, and you're willing to pay 6,000 shillings for it, why not?
Joel, if you know that I'll need that watch, okay, and you go and buy it at 5,000 shillings, and you know that in 1 or 2 weeks, I will buy it at 10,000 shillings, that I need the watch that I'm looking for.
That's being corrupt.
But that's the new way of corruption. People use information to steal money.
But that's business. That's how business people operate.
Now see, it's the same thing. You're calling it business. Other people are calling it corruption. At the end of the day,
as long as my motive
you're
is right,
inflating
really.
prices that are not supposed to be inflated.
No, there's inflation, there's inflating things, but there's, you know, looking at the whole modus operandi of how much have I spent to bring these commodities here in, you know, I'm paying for rent, etc., etc. I should not gazump you at the end of the day, yeah, but it should make business sense. Of course, I know there's people that rip off others, but it should make business sense. If I bought a plot of land today, after a couple of months, you know, 5 million has added to it, why not?
Well, yeah, and I like the way you defend that.
No, because, you know, I'm looking at it from the business angle. I should not rip you off. Of course, there's people in town that
because
rip you
that's
off.
what the Premier did, and you castigated him for being a businessman. Colgate can kill you, says the Red Paper this morning, and it's a new study.
That's in the Red Paper.
Yeah.
The Observer here reports Museveni hires US firm for PR. Now, Status of panel is going to spend 1.56 billion shillings on this deal. Apparently, it's meant to promote the image of the president, and it's meant to promote Uganda's global interests. Look, I would like to see my country promoted out there. I don't know whether such a deal works for us, whether we are putting our money where our mouth is. At the end of the day, I believe that the best PR is just do things right. You are doing business out there. You know that the best way to promote your business is just do a good job. This person you've done a good job for will tell another one and then another one, and before you know it, there's people I know that never advertise.
Presidents all over the world have PR, you know, literally PR.
And that's why I began by saying I like to see my country promoted. I made it very clear, you know. But at the end of the day, what exactly are you promoting? If you see you are promoting a product that is very lackluster, it does not matter how much money you actually push into it. Who will buy it? So I think we should concentrate a lot more on making our country better. Yes, let's do the PR and so on, but if you're not bettering the image locally, Chitulia.
Well, Nsenga's judgment date set according to the red paper, and of course we know this lady who is in court over allegations that she murdered her husband, and of course the police says probably reckless driving, and that date is set for August 15th, and we'll be waiting for what the courts have to say.
Now, in the Observer here, lawyers sue 7 policemen over torture. Catholic Church in Forest Rango. This is a story that I had Kasiate, not too pleased. He belongs to the Catholic faith, and he was thinking, why should I keep taking Holy Communion? Why should I keep paying tithe? Etc., etc. But the Observer also reports that Museveni okays private gays. That's according to the Observer here. I think that's information from the caucus meeting. There you have it.
All right, and it's now time to cross over to Mabel.
I thought you were going to say, now it's now time for us to give.
Grab a copy of the Observer, the Daily Monitor, and the Red Paper for more of local news. Mabel, of course, the stories of Robin Williams still making rounds on the internet, and stars all over the world sending in their condolences. But the main question is depression, and whether actually it can lead most of these Hollywood stars to suicidal tendencies. And of course, so many stars have been named. Those who have committed, Heath Ledger being one of them. Are they too depressed that they say, okay, let me consume some drugs here? Who do they talk to when they are depressed? Are they actually alone in this world that we all celebrate them? Do we overrate them? Apart from that, what's making news on the international scene?
And indeed, we shall start with that story. Yesterday, they were saying Robin Williams died due to asphyxia, and today it is confirmed that he did hang himself in his home. It's quite sad. His wife was in the home at the same time, but she was in a different room, and she left for work and assumed he was sleeping, yet he was dead. He was actually found by his personal assistant. This is a policeman here giving an update on Robin Williams' death. Now, still on the CNN page, aid or invasion? Questions loom as the Russian convoy heads towards Ukraine and actually crosses the border. Yesterday we did talk about it, but it depends on whom you ask what is in these trucks. Now, these are about 80 trucks, I believe. 280 white-painted trucks snaked their way yesterday towards the Ukrainian border. Are there relief goods on the trucks, or is it just equipment and ammunition for a probable Russian invasion to Ukraine? Well, we are still not too sure what is in those trucks. Russia says it's aid. I'm sure the Ukrainians do not believe so. Russia, according to the Ukrainians' deputy foreign minister, says that they will continue inventing new excuses for their policy. Moving on to the BBC page, we have Iraq. US sends more military advisors to Kurdistan. At least 130 military advisors have been sent not to take part in combat, but to assess the humanitarian situation there. Also on the BBC page, Michael Brown shooting. Obama calls for calm after some nights of violence in Ferguson, the town in Missouri, where a black teenager was killed by a policeman. He was supposed to begin college this week, studies in a technical college, but unfortunately his parents are instead planning his funeral. We have seen a bit of looting, tear gas, and Obama was saying that people should remember the young man through reflection and understanding. Still on the BBC page, Pope Francis faces a greater challenge in Asia. Asia is the most populous continent. However, it does not have so many Catholics. He is set to spend 5 days in Korea, where he will pay homage to the memory of Korean martyrs who died in the 18th century. He'll also beatify some of these martyrs. As you can see there, a picture of South Korea's Catholic martyrs at a shrine in Dangjin. He will also move to Sri Lanka and the Philippines as part of his Asian tour. On the BBC page, it's ethical to use untested Ebola drugs, says WHO. These drugs have only been tested on monkeys, but now they are being used to treat the Africans who have contracted the Ebola virus. Now, UK has a moral responsibility, according to one of its politicians, over Iraq and to help the Kurds. They say they helped create Iraq in the 1920s and now have a moral responsibility to help the Kurds, not joining the US in action against the IS, which is the Islamic State that has taken control over this area. But they are saying that, you know, we need to stand by, the British need to stand by the Iraqis. Again, we see here Iraqi airstrikes. UK has a moral responsibility. On the Sky News page, sad story here. The Spanish priest who contracted Ebola and was flown back to Spain actually died yesterday. Quite sad that he was 75. He was with a nun, and the nun has tested negative for the disease. Now, we shall end with Clinton has called Obama to clarify remarks. Earlier, she called Clinton's foreign policy a failure, but apparently she was quoted out of context. So if you go to the Al Jazeera page, actually, not Reuters, she's clarifying what she actually said about President Obama's foreign policy. Morning at NTV will continue right after this break.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Molondo.
Hello, doctor. Hello. Are you feeling okay today? I should be the one asking you that. Me, I'm very fine. I'm just calling to check on you. You're sure you're okay? No headache, no fever? But you, man. Okay, doctor. Just checking.
Make a call for whatever reason. Call someone, call anyone, and change your life. Make a call and you could win 100 million shillings, a car, or a smartphone with free data for a year. Plus, win 2 free minutes every day.
Airtel. Together we can.
Hey there, Mr. Krabs. Are you ready to party?
I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. You like to move it, move it.
Wow! Hello, fellow motor enthusiasts.
Oh, Mr. Krabs, isn't there any way for us to return all of them back to normal?
Hey! How'd he do that?
The Red Ranger's a bigger problem than I thought.
It's time to finish this thing up.
What can I do to make them love me again?
What are you drawing, Kitty?
Hello? King Julian, you are truly inspiring. Ow!
SpongeBob! Fantastic!
You can bring everybody in parliament as long as they can wake up and vote for their NRM.
As long as the voters exercise their rights to elect their leaders, there was no need for term limits in Uganda.
I know him. I know how he operates. I know how he thinks.
There are ways you can go around these obstacles.
Why should I conduct myself as if I am Muyai?
It's absolutely true. I admired President Museveni.
Is the ICC a fiscal code targeting African leaders?
You cannot tell me that the whole trouble Kenya had revolved about only 2 individuals.
The money is not in the budget of this financial year.
You can't beat God. You see, God is polygamous also. Look at Jeremiah chapter 31.
The security of this country will largely depend on the contribution that the people make.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Molondo.
Thank you for joining us this Wednesday morning. We now cross over to Joel for today's big story. Good morning, Joel.
Good morning, Mabel. It's a big story indeed. Look, legalization took effect in this country from about 1992, and over the years we have seen progression. At some point, I think we have seen retrogression, depending on who you ask, though, and then, of course, you know, the division of now parishes, I'm told, about to become districts. But this whole decentralization thing came to fall because we hoped that services would get closer to people. Has that happened? Has it not? We'll have my guests answer that when we get back. All right, my guest this morning is Paul Bogere. Paul is Commissioner Local Government Development, Ministry of Local Government. Good to have you here, Sebo.
Thank you very much.
Now, on 10th of August, we did celebrate decentralization as we know it, since its inception in 1992. And I tend to look at many of these days that we tend to celebrate. There's a day for this, a day for the other. But look, after we celebrate the days, everything dissipates. You know, in these days, we huff and puff, talk about the predicaments we have, if it's decentralization in this case, and so on. And after that, it is a long gone story. Do we keep track of these things, or are we waiting for 10th of August 2015, come together again, talk a little bit, smile, complain, and then we go away again?
This time round, I think for decentralization, it's not as business as usual. Since 1992, when the decentralization policy was launched in this country, or program, we've been progressing. We decentralized powers, which included political, legal, financial, and empowering people to take decisions on their own. We are not just celebrating for the sake of celebrating, but as we talk now, the local people take their own decisions. They decide on what they want to procure. They decide on their budgets. They plan for themselves, and they focus on the future. You'll find that, for instance, a district like Chibale, which was not there so many years ago, it did not have the infrastructure it has currently. But after decentralization, the economy of Chibale is booming in a way, the economy of Isingiro is booming in a way, and other parts of the country. So it's not a celebration for the sake, but renewing ourselves to ensure that we serve the people better.
I've had time and again district leaders complaining that look, they collect resources locally, and then of course they've got to first send them to central government, and many times they don't get enough funding adequate to run their operations, build roads, do the different rehabilitations and modifications that need to be done locally, and often they complain that look, we're not doing a good job. Why? Because central government, where you sit, is not sending in the monies that we require.
We have reviewed progress on that area. We as central government would like to admit to an extent that there's things we're not doing right, and the renewal of our re-engagement with the local government is going to improve service delivery. We are going to switch from business as usual to really calculate better what does it cost to render a service X or Y, and then ensure that the resources are transferred in adequate quantities and in a timely manner in order to address the issues at hand.
To cut you some slack, I know you always send some money to these local administration units, and at the end of the day, there should be value for money. NTV, for example, has been running a series of stories, especially highlighting hospitals, and last night we were talking about Abim district, and there are these hospitals that are very dilapidated, where patients should be. It is now rats, bats, etc., etc. I'm thinking, you people, local government ministry, are mandated to monitor what happens down on the ground. That does not seem to happen. Have you abdicated your role? Do you trust these guys well enough to say, all right, do your job, we trust you're doing a good job, we don't need to bother you. But at the end of the day, we don't see services delivered at the end of the day. So it seems like government is not playing its oversight role as it should.
Well, depending on which angle you're coming from, according to the Local Government Act, sections 96 to 100, they empower the center to do monitoring, technical support.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Technical support, support supervision, and other bits. As I said earlier on, we could have had mistakes before, but we want to revamp this. We want to intensify our supervision. That's why we have better control now of the cows and the town clerks. We review their performance on a quarterly basis, and when we find a problem in a particular district, we address it head on. I must say we are not 100%, but we are moving towards the right direction. And we are glad that when you identify such issues, you bring them up, we discuss them, and work out solutions together to solve, because one person cannot fix a whole problem.
You're using language that sounds like music to my ears. You're revamping this whole, administrative thing, the monitoring, etc., etc. I'm thinking, how exactly are you doing that? Because you see, in this country, there's a plethora of talk and promises, but there's a paucity when it comes to action. Little is done. You people make promises, we are going to do A, B, C, and D. Practically, what are you doing to revamp all this? Because at the end of the day, the person down there needs medication, they need good schools for their children, they need good roads. They don't see these things down there. So when they hear you saying you're going to revamp everything, things are going to get better, what exactly do you mean? And what are you doing to ensure that this actually, when the rubber hits the road, it gets to happen?
Well, revamping is a multifaceted statement or concept. It includes capacity building, It includes proper needs assessment and then prescribing the right solution for the problem at hand. Abim has a different problem from Moroto, from Jinja, from Umbarara and others. So we want to engage the local people and address the issues at hand. For instance, if you looked at Isingiro, they are busy producing matoke and other bits, as opposed to Karamoja, which is busy with the livestock and other bits. So the solution you give Kalangala is not the solution you're going to give to Abim, it's not the solution you're going to give to Jinja, it's not the solution you're going to give to Uyende. So, like I said, on a quarterly basis, we have revamped performance review of the performance of the cows, who also review the performance of their staff to ensure that they address the local issues with local solutions, but with support of all actors in the system.
I like that you concede that there's been a lackluster performance, and you're saying we want to do better. I'm thinking it's taken us 20 plus years, yeah? Why should people trust that now things are going to get better as opposed to what you're saying? Why has it taken us this long to realize that, look, we need to tweak certain things and do differently here? If this is not working, 20 plus years it's not happened, why should you trust that things are going to get better now?
Well, development is a process. Growth does not happen in a nick of a minute. We are using this as a learning curve. We've learned from our mistakes, and we are going to fix issues according to the mistakes we have had. We've had pluses, definitely. I don't want us to dwell on the negatives. We've had pluses, and we want to build on the pluses to ensure that service delivery is better, the local economies are better. For instance, in 2006, we reviewed the objectives of decentralization. We used to have 5, and we included local economic development, where we want to empower the local people, have some money in their pockets, such that they can take decisions with money in their pockets.
There's been this deception by politicians, and at some point I saw technical people like yourself, not necessarily you, but I mean the technical wing of especially the local government ministry, jumping onto the bandwagon and saying, look, if you create more districts, the services get closer to the people. We are not seeing that happening, and we are thinking, what are you people thinking about? Of course, now the politicians are coming out to recant those statements and say, look, I think we need to cut down on the creation of districts. We have many administrative units in this country, you know, over 100 districts in this country, and it was thought that this would bring services closer to the people. But what do we realize now? Our budget for just administrative purposes has been bloated. That means we are spending more money on paying salaries of these different district administrative units, as opposed to keeping this money to ensure that roads are better, that hospitals are better, and so on and so forth. How do you plan to better this anyway?
Good enough, it is government itself which has realized that the bloating of districts is an issue. Districts were created to improve service delivery, to bring services nearer to the people, but we've reviewed the costs of creating a district. For instance, it costs over 59 billion just creating one district. So if you change those resources into service delivery, into empowering the people in the agriculture sector, in the industrial sector, then you serve better. That's why government has come up now with a moratorium. So let's put a stop to creation of districts and concentrate on improving the system. That's why we are restructuring. Very soon new structures are going to come out, which are functional based, not number based, not necessarily the number of people, but can the function be delivered. For instance, you may need 2 people to do a job of 10 people when you change technology.
Look, there's been talk of federalism all over the place, and when you hear it out, you're thinking, all right, there are legitimate concerns, because if say Bunyoro is having oil and all of that is supposed to be pushed to the central government, at the end of the day, how does the local area get to benefit? And that I know is something you're ruminating over. What is the plan? Because each region in this country has got different resources, and people feel, wait a minute, at the end of the day, these resources should ameliorate us down here before this money runs to central government. Perhaps a portion of it should get back. What is the discussion between there?
The discussion and the decision in that direction is focusing on loyalties. Where the resources are generated from, the local place should get some percentage of taxes.
What percentage is that?
That will vary. It varies from 10 to 15 or less, depending on the negotiations. But as we talk now, the law on petroleum and taxation is under debate, and whatever the legislators will guide us is what we shall go for. But if you talk, for instance, Jinja is getting royalties in as far as generation of power is concerned.
Look, I've seen a number of citizens who feel, because there are services that can only be offered at the local administrative unit, then there are those that can only be offered at central government. And much of the time it's another catch-22 situation, if you like. Locals do not know where to go. I'm thinking, is it an issue of poor publicity? People don't know where to go for which services. And that is why there is a blame game. You've had this local government saying, look, government is the one to blame. Then other times we hear government, central government people saying, no, it is the local government supposed to be doing that. And at the end of the day, people are left in limbo. Where do we go? Who do we go to? Who does what? People don't know down there.
Thank you very much. That's the issue I talked about of capacity building. Our civil society organizations need to build their capacity. Faith-based organization, and even you, the
they
media.
They should do your work, government, you're saying. Civil society should do your work?
No. They should understand their rights and obligations and demand for them. The center is clear. According to the Constitution, there are services for the center, there are services for the local government. But the wananchi should understand what services they are meant to get from who, and it is the role of the civil society and the media to empower them together with government in order to question, in case I don't get this service, whom do I ask? That will stop the blame game. But the issue is, you don't do your obligation, then you expect me to do mine 100%. Yes, I may do 100%, but if you don't do yours, definitely there is no intersection. So it is a two-way traffic, really.
This devolution, decentralization, if you like, it's been on for about 22 years down the road. I was having a chat with some people who are thinking, wait a minute, this thing looks like it has not exactly worked. Yes, we have made some progress, but you know, whenever we make about 2 steps forward, we make 3 backwards. And then we make 4 frontwards, then we make another 3 to 4 steps backwards. And people are thinking, should we not begin to review this in its entirety?
Definitely, we have reviewed, and we review constantly, as I told you, in our quarterly sessions, which will translate into annual sessions.
What are you reviewing? What changes do you have up your sleeves?
We review the policies, we review the procedures, we review the systems, and tweak them to ensure that we deliver what we are meant to deliver.
Break them down a little bit. It sounds very generic. What policies, for example? Name one. And how are you tweaking it to see that at the end of the day, the common man gets value for their taxes?
For instance, originally or before, government was just basically taxing people. Let's go back to the head tax, whereby as long as you are age 18, you pay tax, regardless of whether you are earning an income or not. So we have reviewed progress and said, in order to tax people, empower them. For instance, give them seedlings to plant coffee, and you know that within 18 months, coffee will have matured, or give them seedlings of mangoes. Within 18 months, they will have matured, and you can calculate that if you give 10,000 seedlings of coffee to a place X, within 18 months, they should be able to be harvesting so much coffee. They should be able to be selling so much coffee. Then you base that on that to tax them and accordingly render them the services they deserve. Not just guessing that because X is age 18, then automatically has to pay tax, even when you have not helped him to put in place systems to ensure that roads are available, infrastructure, the markets are available for them to sell their goods and services, in order to have an income for you to tax it and then give back the services.
When you especially, you know, read the press and so on over the years, one gets to imagine that there seems to be quite a bit of corruption at the local government level, perhaps at times a lot more than at central government. Well, there's more money the other side, but your monitoring role, how does it come in handy, or is it a question of maybe central government being very corrupt itself? It is handicapped, it cannot do a good job down here. Lots of monies are not put to account. What is happening? What are you people doing about all this?
Well, this is, again, an issue which is tackled from a number of angles. Government has put in place a number of institutions. As a Ministry of Local Government, we have an inspectorate directorate, which is meant to ensure that standards are followed and other bits. But there are other government institutions. We have the Ombudsman, the IGG, we have the Auditor General, and definitely the public also. So we are all meant to watch the activities on the ground and ensure that we feed back, we fix whatever has gone wrong. That's why you've seen some people have ended up in jail, some people have been interdicted, some people have been dismissed, and all that kind of thing.
Next year, 10th of August, will be, you know, celebrating, I don't know from where this time round. It was Kabale this time round. We might go to Nakasongola, or I do not know where. What do we hope to have achieved from now to 10th August, if say I bring you back on this show a year from today, tangibly, we have yes talked about the the good bits that have happened previously and the not so good bits, a good number of them, but I want to say, all right, we're giving you a clean slate, we're giving you a fresh start. 1 year from today, what success will you be recording? And we are putting you on record for this.
Yes, I'm more than happy to be put on record. We are focusing on local economic development. We've issued a circular to all local governments to focus on local economic development. We are modeling, for instance, Ruengo, which has gone full blast in as far as local economic development. We want
that sounds very ambiguous and convoluted, local economic development.
Yes,
break it down for our viewers.
Local economic development basically means me and you, the local person, having some money in my pocket.
How so? By politicians giving us when they bring it in sacks?
No, not handouts, not handouts. We are talking about empowering you to use your plot of land, put on an acre of coffee or half an acre of coffee. For instance, the other day when we were in Kabale, we were talking of tea growing. And those who are propelling tea growing, just make a hedge of tea, a hedge, instead of making a fence of thorns. A hedge of tea would ensure that you have tea production enhanced in Kabale and the economy of the local person. Instead of just having flowers, which may not earn you money, a hedge of tea will give you money for the next 1,000 years. So we want to switch from business as usual to planting or investing in areas where you can get a coin out of it. You plant a mango tree, 18 months later, you are harvesting baskets of mangoes. And that will improve your economy, you will afford your own soap. You're not going to wait for politicians to give you bar of soap, salt and other things in order to disempower you to question their actions or inactions.
All right, we'll keep watching and see how all this pans out. Paul Wogere, Commissioner, Local Council Development, pleasure having you here this morning.
Thank you very much.
My opinion is coming up shortly. Decentralization has been on for about 22 years. If you and I were to do an evaluation, you probably get as many responses as there are Ugandans in this country. I like to think it was done for the good, to see that services get closer to the people. It is good we have put a halt to the creation of many districts, a sub-county becoming a district, a parish, etc., because actually that was, making our resources a lot thinner and we're not putting them to good use. Can we begin to avail services to people down there, local governments especially, because there's complaints again and again. We see ping pong, local government saying it is central government saying it is local government, and at the end of the day, it is the local person that remains in limbo. They don't know what to do, services are not getting their way. I feel as leaders in this country, we need to, put our best foot forward, local government, central government, and avail services to the people in this country. Let's have more leaders as opposed to politicians. I've said it again and again. Politicians are more concerned about the next election. Leaders are more concerned about the next generation. We need more leaders in this country. Can we have them? I hope so. That's a big story for this morning. Morning at NTV continues shortly. Do stay with us.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
We transact every day, and for centuries, currencies have changed hands. Business is a must, and that is why Money Matters makes it a must to talk business.
It's the biggest market out in Uganda because of East African connections and business.
From farming to business trading, we give you all the angles.
When you're harvesting, that one is the most important part, which we have to be there.
We'll bring you all the details that doing business has to offer.
Thoughts of the business leaders in the market.
The airline industry doesn't operate like any other industry, where you go in and buy a shirt and this shirt is 20 shillings today, it will be 20 shillings tomorrow, 20 shillings.
The analysis of the costs and the income in the industries.
From wherever we are, we talk business,
and at Money Matters,
where money indeed matters.
Business is a must.
So, don't miss talking business with us every Thursday only on NTV.
What is this place?
place. What the hell is happening? My God!
Welcome to the Aromas Perfumes Empire. Here, the millionaire Gustavo Brandao calls the shots.
It's still not the perfume I want. The new Veronica should be the essence of romance.
Only one thing surpasses his power.
Enough!
His evil reputation.
I don't need anyone to suck up to me.
But just as the perfumes, which transform with time, Gustavo will also go through changing.
One day you're on the top, the next, only God knows.
In the Aromas hallways, a trap is about to bring together the destinies of Gustavo and Rose. The humble cleaning lady finds out that in the world of appearances, something did not smell right.
But I saw it with my own eyes. They'll take you away for good, and it's today.
Who are you?
They'll have to find Gustavo in the middle of the desert and finish him for real.
Gustavo!
Ekifo ekimu kissa wamusu n'ekyalo ekiweddeko abamanye bakiraza mumwa. Tugenda kutuuka gy'oli oyogere naffe ebikwata ku kyalo kyo, embeera mw'okolera, ebyobufuzi, ebyobulamu n'ensonga endala nnyingi. Ebyogerwa tebiyita. Tuusa eddoboozi lyo, yogera naffe buli lwakuna otereevu ku NTV Akawungeezi.
Stand up to be counted. Brought to you by UBOS. It's your right. For better transportation, count for what counts. Census is here from 28th August to 6th September. When you take part in the census, the information you provide is used to make better policies and plans to improve service delivery in your community. Get ready to be counted. Stand up to be counted. Brought to you by UBOS. It's your right.
On the next episode, brought to you by...
At Orange, we know you want to do more on the internet. That's why we bring you happy hour day and night.
Log in.
The fashion show at the MTN Arena.
And the best of Bebeco. Don't miss all this Wednesday at 7:30 only on NTV.
You can download movies at the lowest prices and never fast from Orange. Dial *133# to buy a data bundle. Happy hour changes with Orange. Today changes with Orange.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
Welcome back. Thank you for those who have posted on Facebook. We read here from Nicholas, who says creating a district is just a liability, because even those who think of jobs and service delivery, it's vice versa. You see how a district like Buhweju, which was cut from Bushenyi some good years ago, it has never had a good doctor, no good roads, water, electricity. Now, what is that? Remember, you can be part of the show by posting your comments on our big story or anything else that you do see here or you do hear at Morning at NTV. Katende saying the people who do it, but government didn't help them. And he's talking about what Mr. Bogere said, that revamping is a multifaceted statement. We want to engage the local people and address the issues at hand. Lots of districts having lots of issues. Now, before we cross over to Brian, we have some memorable quotes from Robin Williams. He says, "We don't read and write poetry because it's cute. We read and write poetry because we are members of the human race. And the human race is filled with passion. And medicine, law, business, engineering, these are noble pursuits and necessary to sustain life. But poetry, beauty, romance, and love are necessary to sustain, are what we stay alive for." John Keating from the movie Dead Poets Society. We shall now cross over to Brian for today's Everyday Life. Good morning, Brian.
And at the Serena rooftop, we are, you know, just taking some coffee. But of course, we are also going to talk about a very hot topic. It's a joy of every child when they turn into an adult. But it's a cry of every parent and their inability to work with this young adult, if you may put it like that. So this morning, we're going to look at that age when we seem to be graduating from a place where we have been literally being taken care of to a place where we feel more independent and secure, and especially for young people, the age between 12 and 18, that we literally define as adolescence. What are the challenges, the limitations, and you as parents, what are your opportunities to make sure that you raise your children the right and proper way on Everyday Life? Coming up. I think I'm obviously very disoriented because of the cold. So to help me put everything right is Dr. Sabrina Chitaka. Good morning.
Good morning, Brian. How are you?
I don't think I'm fine, but I hope by the end of this discussion I'll be fine.
Yeah.
And for the benefit of this discussion, we'll probably start by defining what an adolescent is and what is that right age, because somehow it seems to shift every year. And you know, the other day I saw a picture of a child giving birth to a child, and you're thinking, now, during this age, this is a baby. How can they even be able to give birth?
Okay, thank you very much, first of all, for giving us this opportunity to talk about adolescence. An adolescent is somebody aged between 10 and 19. So not 12 to 18, but 10 to 19. And adolescence is a period of transition, like you correctly said. It's when somebody transitions from being a child to becoming an adult. But adolescents are not children, and they are not adults.
They are young adults.
They are adolescents. And that's what we need to correct here. Okay? So during adolescence, a lot of changes take place, including, you know, secondary sexual characteristics, girls getting breasts, boys becoming deeper voices, developing beards, getting stronger muscles, and you know, that kind of a thing. We've all been adolescents, we've been there, but one thing many parents are afraid of is that time when their, you know, son or daughter becomes an adolescent. In Luganda, they even have names for it. Abavubuka, you know, people fear that time. But what we really would like to explain here is that adolescence is a normal physiological process. It's that time when a lot of hormones are pouring into an individual's body to allow them to become adults. So hormones like the growth hormone, testosterone for the boys, estrogen for the girls, to help them to transition into adulthood.
Do parents understand this? Because I see parents struggling to make sure that their children still stay the young, you know, the primary kids that they are, like P4, P5 controlling. Do they understand that at this age, a child needs to go through some things because ultimately they have to become
independent? Yes, exactly. And it is very critical that we as parents or people who care for these young people, you know, in secondary school, in places of work, that we respect this age. And adolescents also need to build their confidence and because they are the experts. They are the ones experiencing these bodily changes. They are the ones experiencing being pointed at. Now you have breasts, now you have developed this and that. So we need to give them support and encouragement. And parents need to be patient.
How do you do that when you know, obviously you're coming from a place where you're caring about your child? How do you responsibly do that without even hurting their egos or slowing down, I guess, for lack of a better, slowing down their development?
Exactly. So one of the things is basic respect and not being judgmental. I've had 3 adolescents in my house, growing up. I have a daughter who's 16, a son who's 18, and another son who's 24. So I've seen it. But also, I take care of adolescents at Makerere and Mulago. And I've seen that each adolescent needs to be given the independence they deserve, the respect they need. And for us as health caregivers, and even as parents, we don't need to be judgmental.
Yeah.
It's a process of giving this person the independence they deserve. Because, Brian, whatever happens to you during adolescence is going to impact on you as an adult.
That's true.
If your ego was quashed, if your confidence was quashed, then probably you're not going to be confident as an adult. And then you're not going to achieve to your maximum potential.
Right. I think also one of the things that you can help us highlight is for parents to understand what the adolescents go through. What are those challenges that they go through so that it makes it easier for them?
Okay, so the challenges that adolescents go through, as we said, first of all, the bodily changes, but also adolescents are very likely to become depressed. As adolescents are growing up, they work a lot with their peers, and they want to be independent. So that struggle of independent and trying to be an adult, yet they are not an adult, of understanding that they are no longer a child, they are being given more responsibilities, it can be confusing. So we talk about adolescent blues. A time when people just become depressed. They don't want to talk to others. So if you don't seek them out and understand them, then you're going to leave them incommunicado and they will become depressed. A lot of adolescents want to hurt themselves, just to get over the pain of being tortured, of being told you're no longer a child, you're an adult, and it's so confusing at this point. So it's very important for us as parents, as caregivers, to pick out when are they dropping off, when are they becoming depressed. And depression can be identified by, an adolescent is sleeping too much, or is eating too much, or is not eating at all, or somebody
for boys, eating too much is definitely not one of those.
So other challenges include, trying to appear as, how models look. So girls can sometimes lose their relationship with food completely and develop a condition called anorexia nervosa. But boys can also develop anorexia nervosa.
Really?
Oh yes, they can.
I haven't met a single boy like that.
Yeah. So they struggle to try and remain small. So eventually they stop eating, they start with not eating their eggs or their protein. Wow. Start to stop eating milk, and then eventually they eat nothing. That's a problem.
I've seen that a lot, in school. For example, maybe around S1 and girls are trying to be slim. Yeah, the girls definitely develop that. But for boys...
And now with all these, the media age, with people showing that a classy boy is slim.
Six-pack. 10, in fact, 10 packs.
Like, six-pack doesn't come because of not eating. It comes because of exercising. Yeah? And people need to understand that. But a lot of times people don't eat and they think that, oh, I'm going to become small because of not eating. But not eating is a disease. It causes derangement in the hormones and all these problems. But the other challenges adolescents face is peer pressure. Today we are seeing a lot of adolescents engaging in drug abuse and alcohol abuse, and also engaging in sexual activity. And very poor statistics that nearly 24% of our population, by the time they become 18, they probably already had their
They've had the, yes.
which is sad. It shouldn't happen.
Mm.
And on top of that, that use of drugs among adolescents is increasing. But what we need to caution adolescents and teenagers is that the choice you make during this period is going to impact on your adulthood. If you choose to take drugs now, then in future you're probably not going to excel and you're not going to become a professional, you're not going to enjoy your adulthood. If you choose to make friends of the wrong caliber, you know, birds of a feather flock together. So what will happen to you when you're an adult?
If this adolescent wants to keep their friends, you know, because they're the cool guys, and while we're discovering who we are, because I remember my mother, oh, she would ask me, who's your friend? And she would make sure she visits.
Your friend,
Yeah, they come to our home, but we also go to their home.
Yes.
And sometimes I felt like, man, you're just killing me. You're killing me. Like, my friends won't accept me for who I am. Can you just stop? And of course, she refused to stop. And
aren't you happy that she did that?
of course, she did, because I'm very happy. But as an adolescent, do you understand it? I'm saying that was good later. But at the time, I was like, oh my gosh.
So here's the thing. Sometimes adolescents do not trust us as parents to make for them correct choices. Because of, you know, adolescents think, oh, these guys are in another generation. They didn't even have Facebook or WhatsApp or hello, they are Asian. But the truth is, parents all over the world usually make correct choices for their children and their adolescents. So for mom asking you to come with your friend at home, they just want to support you, to make sure you're not with those cool guys who are doing wrong things. So adolescents also need to trust parents, just as parents need to trust adolescents to make the right choice.
You talked, you know, for me, I believe with rights also comes responsibilities. And you talked about how adolescents should understand that the choices they make right now will impact who they become. So what do adolescents need to learn? That while they are pursuing this, you know, awesome transition, you're discovering this, you're getting to, you know, you're getting a deep voice, so you're becoming cool, and you get some cool genes. The ladies know that they're becoming more beautiful, so they need to,
you know, smoother skins,
yes,
and softer voices, and
the boys are getting beards, and you know, you're miming songs, and you're cool. What should be our responsibility for adolescents? What should they know? That yes, this is happening, but we must keep this in mind.
Yeah, that it's a process and it's a transition period. They need to understand. And on Monday, the 18th, we are going to have a workshop for a selected 15 adolescents aged between 10 and 19. You know, just giving them life skills and support. We also have an adolescent clinic at Mulago, which runs every Friday. So sometimes adolescents come in and they're just confused, they don't know what's going on, and they need to be guided. They need to be guided and told that they are the experts, but they need to work within the limits and confines of the rules.
So they actually set rules for...
Yeah, there are set rules. Like in my house, you don't walk in at midnight.
Curfew. You don't just...
No. And at school is where adolescents spend 60% of their life. There are rules. If the school says bedtime is 10 p.m., it's 10 p.m., go to sleep. So they should not try and defy the rules.
Right. How can you best manage an adolescent child? This morning, Sabrina Chitaka sharing with us what the responsibility of you as a parent should be. Any last word for parents? Because I really feel sorry for parents, because I know there are lots, you know, right now, it's holiday time.
And are you a parent?
I am, but...
And your child is still going to
child has
become
about
adolescent.
9 years, 10 years to get
so
to...
don't feel sorry for the parents. Let parents enjoy their adolescence. Let parents enjoy their children and communicate with them. I think the key and most important thing is to not break that communication process. It should be communication all the time. Find out what's going on with your adolescent, find out what's going on with your teenager, so that they meet you halfway.
Fantastic. Meet them halfway. I like that.
Okay.
And you can continue the conversation on Facebook and Twitter. That is Morning at NTV. That's Morning at NTV. Of course, feel free to tag us when we go to and NTV Uganda. We'll get Dr. Sabrina on those platforms to answer those questions. And you know she's done this already with us on T-Nation, where she works with young people and brings them together. So you can't do this again after this show. We'll first spend some time to about it. But Isma on the other side is standing by with sport. Good morning, Isma. Very cold morning here at the rooftop, but I know it's not cold in the world of sport. What do you have this morning?
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
Hello, doctor. Hello. Are you feeling okay today?
I should be the one asking you that.
Me, I'm very fine. I'm just calling to check on you. You're sure you're okay? No headache, no fever?
But you, man.
Okay, doctor. Just checking.
Make a call for whatever reason. Call someone, call anyone, and change your life. Make a call and you could win 100 million shillings, a car, or a smartphone with free data for a year. Plus, win 2 free minutes every day.
Airtel. Together we can.
I see in your resume you went to graduate school in psychology.
Berkeley.
You're familiar with crazy people.
Mostly from living in LA.
Quincy Watson had everything a guy could want.
You still going with that model? Vanessa and our engagement.
Until tonight.
I think she just kicked him to the curb.
You going to Paris with Tony, my best man? You somebody else right now. Girl, you an alien right now. Oh. What you wearing, Q? Feels good on my skin. Sorry about Helen, okay? But you got to pull yourself together.
I've been writing.
Oh, hell no, I'm calling Mama. It started out as a letter, then it evolved into a manual on how to break up with your lover. What were you planning on doing with that? I'm finna... We're gonna be rich, bro.
Ladies and gentlemen, Quincy Watson, author.
I can't, man. I just met this babe. You remind me of somebody.
Really?
Halle Berry. She told me she was seeing another guy. If it wasn't for that stupid haircut that she had, she cut her hair. She thinks she looks like Halle Berry. Come on, man. Halle Berry? What's wrong with you? No, my stomach is bad. I ate some of those taquitos.
You can bring everybody in parliament as long as they can wake up and vote for the NRM.
As long as the voters exercise their rights to elect their leaders, there was no need for term limits in Uganda.
I know him. I know how he operates. I know how he thinks.
There are ways you can go around these obstacles.
Why should I conduct myself as if I am a Muyai?
It's absolutely true. I admired President Museveni.
Is the ICC a fiscal code targeting African leaders?
You cannot tell me that the whole trouble Kenya had revolved about only 2 individuals.
The money is not in the budget of this financial year.
You can't beat God. You see, God is polygamous also. Look at Jeremiah chapter 31.
The security of this country will largely depend on the contribution that the people make.
Aro, give me 5 stress, 3 gonorrhea.
Kale muli wano, you think you've brought campasas omwana yena sobola gamba super deep. Si miaka jafe.
I'm like, I like my swag too. So what about it? Then she was like, I also like your accent. That village accent. Now.
Okay, why didn't sign for when you got political tayaka no muzanga nakajawa.
Katina kambuza. Mukagate, why are you crying? Nikagamba basajengeri je bafulumiza mu lukwago.
I think I'm Big Mitch. Larry Hoover. Put that in Kiprotich's accent.
I think I'm Big Mitch. Larry Hoover.
Mr. Krabs, are you ready to party?
I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. You like to move it, move it.
Wow! Hello, fellow motor enthusiastics.
Oh, Mr. Krabs, isn't there any way for us to return all of them back to normal?
Hey! How'd he do that?
The Red Ranger's a bigger problem than I thought.
It's time to finish this thing up!
What can I do to make them love me again?
What are you drawing, Kitty?
Mega Rangers? That's a mega win!
Hello? King Julian, you are truly inspiring. Ow! SpongeBob!
Fantastic!
Mu bonyumirwa ebyemizannyo jangu nkulage.
Does! And Adam Johnson, the boyhood Newcastle United man, Derek, flying in the face of all football logic. A magnificent goal by Robin van Persie. Ferdinand! Everton lead at Old Trafford. Walcott, Giroud. Suarez. Super Suarez. Gonna backs it up.
I'm going to blow your mind and I'm going to twist your taste buds. The flavors are already coming together. I can feel them. Very lovely, very appetizing, very healthy. Remember, the way you see it, the way you like it, is the way you get it from my kitchen to your kitchen.
Ekifo ekimu kissa wamusu n'ekyalo ekiweddeko abamanye bakiraza mumwa. Tugenda kutuuka gy'oli oyogere naffe ebikwata ku kyalo kyo, embeera mw'okolera, ebyobufuzi, ebyobulamu n'ensonga endala nnyingi. Ebyogerwa tebiyita. Tuusa eddoboozi lyo, yogera naffe buli lwakuna otereevu ku NTV Akawungeezi.
On the next episode, brought to you by...
At Orange, we know you want to do more on the internet. That's why we bring you happy hour day and night.
Men.
A lot of men of faith are having challenges in finding love. They don't know when to start and when to stop.
The Christian guys, I believe, probably they don't want to make mistakes. Then by doing that, sometimes they take a lot of time.
Because of the church and Christianity and everything, people tend to take the fun out of their lives.
I believe that there is no true freedom without boundaries.
If you have to consistently set boundaries, you're less creative.
Christianity is not a set of rules.
Only on Men.
You can download movies at the lowest prices and never fast from Orange. Dial *133# to buy a data bundle. Happy hour changes with Orange. Today changes with Orange.
13th day of August, Monday. Well, I feel like it's a Monday, man. It feels so lazy this morning. But it's a Wednesday. 2014. This morning at NTV, we're still at the rooftop of the Kampala Serena Hotel. So I'll continue our conversation on Facebook and Twitter. You can also send us an SMS to 6565. We apologize for the sound difficulties we had a couple of minutes ago. But we are back, and our technical team is making sure that everything is perfect. Joining me this morning is Isma. Good morning, Isma.
Good morning. And actually, when you talked about Monday, it reminds me of my previous Mondays before I got involved in this job. One of the first jobs I did after university, Monday was my day off, and I chose it intentionally, because everyone has a day off at work. At daily mornings, and I chose Monday as my day off, and the reason behind that was that during the weekend I'd be all over the place chasing sports stories, and actually it would be the perfect day for me after we've started from a Friday, from basketball to rugby to watching volleyball to watching cricket on Sunday. So by the time it's Sunday late night, I'm thinking preferably the next day shouldn't be a working day. So when I was asked to fill in for my day off, I knew it was a Monday.
I should probably think about that too, because still Tuesday becomes your new Monday.
It becomes your new Monday, but it doesn't feel the same. While everyone is running errands on a Monday, have an 8:30 meeting on a Monday morning, and you're thinking, where did I stop in 24? What episode was I watching?
At 8 a.m.
At 8 a.m.
Well, speaking of 24, I don't know if KCCA will spend the next 24 hours in Rwanda. They must beat Burundi's Atletico to advance. Tell us about the possibility of this happening.
I think KCC should feel a little confident. They won their first game against Komahia, like we said, and then thereafter went and lost again. They should never have lost against Djibouti's Telecom. Now, they've got to get back and rediscover that mojo that got them the first result. They lie in third place in their group, Group A, with 3 points. Luckily for them is that in this group, 3 teams will advance. 3 teams will go through Group A. Now, they occupy that spot. But Atletico, out of nowhere, are the team that lead this group. That tells you a lot about how well they've played in the tournament so far. So that means that KCC must be the top side in the group, Atletico, to stand a chance of qualifying. Because if they lose today, then it's out of their hands. They could as well go on and lose to APR in the final game. And APR will be the tough side. They had a very slow start to the tournament, I thought, in their first game. That's the reason why they're in the situation they are. But I've got to say that KCC must be feeling a little confident. They seem to play better when the opposition gets bigger, like they did against Komahia when they came from a goal down. They need to go.
Ugandan champions KCC FC will be hoping.
Is that his best defender, Ronnie Chiseka, is suspended. Had 2 yellow cards in the previous game and won't be playing. That means that Richard Kasaga only signed for them a few hours before they travel to Kigali. He's going to start the game. And for me, that's one problematic area. But then on the other hand is that they've got to bury their test. I thought against Telecom, while they lost to what I thought was a better side than them, their chances there, like especially Brian Omoni in the first half, he should have buried. He buries those cases are through. Right. So probably they should be a little more clinical in front of God. If they do that, there's no reason why cases can't advance. But this is a team that never does well in the Sekafa Cup. I said previously that they last won this in 1978. And actually at the time, they were the first Ugandan side to win the Sekafa back in 1978, but thereafter, Villa have gone on and won this on 3 occasions, and Police have won it once. And where have KCC been? It's because of results against Djibouti Telecom that you start to fear for them. But I've got to say that I'm pretty confident they could do enough against Atletico to get through.
Was that the time when Villa had the
exactly.
Mukasa and Mubiru?
In that era, they did quite a job. And more importantly, they had a manager or a coach who would match that kind of ambition, Sam Timbe. Brilliant man, brilliant coach who got them that result.
I used to watch those matches. I think they were telecast live at Nachivu World during that time.
Some of them were, especially during the Sekafa. The Sekafa was telecast. But one of the things I remember vividly is that the floodlights looked like candlelight. But the players were playing the game.
In those years, they were floodlights. Well, let's wish them all the luck they need. Now, Ebola has claimed more than 1,000 people in West Africa. And it looks like it has become a threat to next month's qualifiers.
I think it's going to be the biggest story over the next few weeks about all the teams that are going to be playing in West Africa. You remember that in the previous round, Sierra Leone got through against Seychelles because the team from Seychelles Islands refused to host Sierra Leone for fear of Ebola. Now, it's becoming the biggest headache to CAF. And just before even we get to CAF, I remember a few years ago, Muslims in this country were denied the chance to go to Saudi Arabia to perform Hijjah or Hajj, like it's called. They couldn't travel to Mecca because at the time Uganda was fighting an Ebola scourge, and Saudi Arabia opted not to allow Ugandans in. So it's that kind of situation. Now, all African countries are supposed to play games in West Africa crying foul. One of them is Rwanda. Rwanda have already written to CAF saying we can't travel to Nigeria on September 6th for that game. And actually, CAF has also advised some of the countries, Liberia, Guinea-Conakry, and I think Togo, to move their games away from their own countries and get neutral venues for them. Because this Ebola alert is still on, I think, around until September 15th. And actually, I think it's of interest to Uganda that Uganda cranes are also supposed to travel to West Africa twice. Actually, thrice. I've got to say, but two countries that have had Ebola on 2 occasions. That's Guinea-Conakry and Togo. Ghana, luckily, who are the first team that Uganda do play on the weekend of September 6th, are not involved in this yet. But I think it's going to be one of the biggest stories because never before has probably Africa had a scourge of these proportions. In many cases, when games have been moved, it's been because of security or violence. When Uganda played against Senegal in the World Cup qualifiers, there was a stadium incident between Senegal and Ivory Coast, and CAF found it prudent to move the Senegalese game to Morocco because they thought the same thing would happen. In other cases, Libya have qualified for the Nations Cup because they're playing their games, their home games in Guinea, in Ghana, because of the insecurity in the aftermath of the overthrow of Gaddafi.
When was it? Didn't Uganda do one of those games?
No, we don't. We haven't had that in some time. We have.
We were playing
Senegal away in Morocco.
Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
away in Morocco, and Morocco was Senegal's home turf.
Okay.
Now it's a kind of thing that normally it is happening for security reasons. And actually, there's been debate about this even in Angola because Angola have that rebel group in Cabinda, that region called Cabinda, close to South Africa, on their border in South Africa. That's been one of the problems. But I've got to say, this is of proportion that CAF has never faced.
Yeah.
When you have 4 or 5 countries faced with the same problem, and then they have to host games or travel. And Seychelles are saying, we can't host Sierra Leone because they're coming from a country that is affected by Ebola. Now, all the other countries are going to follow Seychelles' lead and do the same.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting to see how this entire thing unfolds, because I know some of these countries are going to respond and tell CAF, we are not moving our games. And that's going to be a big problem for everyone. But it's quite something that I've never seen.
I hope Cranes is not debating on going.
No, their first game is in Ghana. So that is
they can travel.
They can travel to Ghana because Ghana has not had any reported cases of Ebola. But thereafter, if this incident, if the scourge goes on, if the spread of Ebola goes on, then by the time Uganda's play in Guinea or in Togo, this problem would still be here.
Wow, that's of course, that's a huge.
It's a huge story.
That's
It's a huge story.
And of course, yesterday we had the UEFA Super Cup. Real Madrid lined up all its stars. Did they choke or blossom?
They blossomed, but not because of the new stars. The old hand of Cristiano Ronaldo. And for me, that tells you about how good a player is. That even with all the collection of Toni Kroos, James Rodriguez, Gareth Bale, and everyone, say Ronaldo decides the game. He scored twice as they beat up on Sevilla by 2-0 in a game that I thought Madrid were far too superior to Sevilla. And probably that's because one of the things should have been because in the run-up to the game, they had to withdraw Alberto Moreno from the team we'll be talking about because of his move to Liverpool. They didn't want to get injured. But then, on the other hand, I think it was an indicator of how Madrid are going to line up this season. Last night, they didn't play with the defensive midfielder because they don't think they need one at this point in time. And okay, unluckily for them, Xabi Alonso is out injured. But you think that having Toni Kroos, Luka Modric, and James Rodriguez in their midfield was a bit a lightweight midfield. Some teams that can keep the ball will challenge them a bit more. But Ancelotti will be smart and know that in some games probably it will be Asia Laramendi and Alonso and all the other guys. But eventually, while we all waited for weeks to see how Madrid will line up, after all the signings they made, when they showed up, it's the one we knew that decided the game, Cristiano Ronaldo. And for me, for everything that he's done, even with these knee problems, he's still going to remain a very big part of this team.
Yeah.
Though I think they need to lessen the amount of responsibility he has. Because if he goes through a phase when he has injuries and Probably the form is gone. He hasn't scored in 2-3 games, okay, which is extremely hard for Ronaldo. He scored more goals than games he's played at Real Madrid. But on some occasions, probably Rodriguez or Bale or Benzema or Toni Kroos have got to come and decide games. Real Madrid will be the better side for it. But I thought a good game for Real Madrid. This is the best they played, I think, since the end of last season. They have been very poor in their preseason, but last night was a testament to Real Madrid. They turned it on.
Speaking of fantastic jobs, I'm really scared that this man is going to whip out everything. It was his first.
How many times have I had that, Brad?
Because I have a lot of respect for him. Yeah. And while he may be taking on a weak team, that sounds weird. Yeah. But I think he's going to do well. His first game at Old Trafford, how did he do?
Manchester United won the game. They were better than the result or the performance would suggest. They won the game by 2-1 against Valencia. Louis van Gaal's first game, where there was this aura about the entire night. It felt like a Premier League night. All the fans, the moment he walked out, everyone cheered him on. When he walked out, he had to greet a few fans just to get a feel of what Old Trafford is, and eventually the team delivered the result. Darren Fletcher and Marouane Fellaini scoring the goals. Fellaini's goal coming in what you call Fergie time. In other time after the 90, and that's the kind of thing. The ghost of Ferguson, someone lives somewhere within Old Trafford. We just can't see.
That's the Man U we know.
The Manchester United we know, because they scored a very, very late goal to win the game by 2 goals after Valencia had equalized. And you've got to say, if you look back 1 year ago, United are in a better position going the season than they were. Because under David Moyes, they lost so many games in the preseason. I remember telling you yesterday that they lost to Sevilla by 3-1. In the similar game like this, a week before the start of the Premier League season, they had a game like this and they lost it. Now, to come back home and win this kind of game has got to be a huge thing for Louis van Gaal. And probably that will only send the confidence high. And actually, just before the game, he had just announced that Wayne Rooney will be Manchester United captain. No surprises for me. I would have voted Wayne Rooney with blindfolds. There's been all this debate about whether it will be Robin van Persie or Rooney. I thought it was always going to be Rooney. And he got the captain's call now. Now he's going to be the leader of the team, something probably he would have wanted to have had 6-7 years ago, ever since he came to United back in 2006. But I've got to say that everything looks positive about United right now. Probably after they lose a few games or two, then we can look back and say probably the 3-4-1-2 formation is using is not right. But at this point in time, there's barely anything you can point out that is wrong. Even if everyone can question the quality, you call the team weak, we can question the quality of Ashley Young, of Nani, of Tom Cleverley, of Smalling, of Phil Jones, of everyone in that team. But so far, at this point in time, collectively, the team is doing the job, and you've got to go with it.
When you are mentioning the names, I was like, who are those? Then, then when you said collectively, I think they are a strong team collectively. Mangala is joining Man City.
Yeah.
£32 million. What's wrong with these people? Is it worth it? Is it a perfect fit for Chelsea? And of course, for Man City. But of course, my shocker was Eto'o joining Liverpool.
Yeah,
what is going on? Tell us about Chelsea. How did they do yesterday?
Yeah, they won their game by 2-0 against Real Sociedad. Luckily for them, is the player they want to get the goals. Diego Costa scored both. And that's the kind of result that... I think beyond the result, you want Diego Costa to start that way. And he did. But then Mangala, $32 million. I love one of the things that Rio Ferdinand was stating on Twitter. He's still a player because he's signed for QPR. But he's also going to be a pundit for the BBC on Match of the Day Daily in the UK. And he was saying that, for example, if Mangala is $32 million, and he went on about the prices of a defender, said, then Rafael Varane, who probably Ferdinand thinks is the best defender in the world among the young ones, because about 20, the Real Madrid central defender, would go for about 60-70 million. But I think the market was spoiled by Man City and Chelsea. You cannot change anything about it. You just have to deal with it. But now I think in Mangala, they're getting a young player. He's 23. So you can have him for the next 10 years. But for me, he comes in an area that has been problematic for Manchester City. They've struggled to find a partner for Vise Kompany, who is their captain. They've tried Julian Lesko. They've tried Martin Demichelis. They've tried Mika Richards. They've tried everyone in that area, Matias Nastasic. None of them has settled down to be the defender they want him to be. Now, for me, eventually it seems like Manuel Pellegrini has got his man. He knows now with Mangala, we have two centre-backs who are very dependable. I've watched him a few times, and I've not made a conclusive judgment whether he's so good or he's so bad. But I think he has the attributes of a defender. First of all, he's very tall. He can head the ball out. He's not rushing the tackle. Probably is a better passer than I've seen of him, Mangala. I've got to say that it's a transfer that, if it fails, Man City will regret doing it, because this is a player they've chased for the entire summer. Eventually now they have their man. And if it works out, Man City will be a better team defensively, because I think they needed a central defender.
Right.
Now after that, you can debate whether that central defender is good or not, but they needed a central defender. They've got one. Now after he fails, let's all go and blame the manager for signing the wrong player.
Eto'o, what a surprise transfer.
Okay.
Moreno must have been very happy to let him go.
First of all, if he hasn't signed for Liverpool. If he does sign for Liverpool, there is only one winner in this, Samuel Eto'o. I don't think he's a player. They need Liverpool desperately need a striker. They haven't found many strikers in the market ever since getting of Luis Suarez. They only have Daniel Sturridge, then Ricky Lambert, who is 32 and probably came in as a squad player. But the solution, whatever the question Liverpool have, Eto'o is not the solution. Is not the right answer. They need to still go out in the market and chase a striker. They have, this is the 13th. They have another 18 days to find a striker.
So maybe they need someone who has the experience. You know, they're going to be
going to give you. Honestly, last season
he comes with a lot of experience. He has won the Champions League. He knows what it is like.
Last season they played against Manchester United and he scored those goals, because eventually he had 7. I think while he's a good player, I would only have him in a position of Ricky Lambert if he was coming in as a squad player. Now, what Liverpool need is a striker who they are going to partner with Sturridge, or a striker is going to start week in, week out. And for me, sadly, it's not Samuel Eto'o. Liverpool, this is a huge mistake, a huge mistake.
Well, I'm sure Mourinho is like, well, yeah, let him go, let him go, let him go. We'll find out what happens, but of course, at 1:30, Isma will be here with Lumansi and Alan to talk more sport, analyze more stuff, transfers, who's going with where, who's letting go of what, and you can catch the show then. Of course, Monday from Club Silk is Sports Bar. With the whole gang. And Isma, I saw you featuring on the show on Monday. Yeah. And
rare that happens, because I signed in for an 8 to 5 job.
And you were
does not lie to an 8 to 5 job.
Yeah. So you can catch those two shows and get to know what's more in the world of sport. Before we leave you, your African proverb. Wisdom is like fire, people take it from others.
First of all, first think about it. What is wisdom?
The ability to do what is wisdom to character. The decision that you make when you're about to lose everything. In the event that all is going to be lost, what decision do you make?
I know you're a religious person, and in religion, we are told wisdom only comes from God. Wisdom comes from God. But I think when you less, they are not by hand, or my charcoal stove. But that doesn't mean that I think by helping someone with that fire, or the slightest knowledge you have, it doesn't make you any less. Actually, for many people, I think, like in this job, I think the more you speak with the knowledge, because you're always challenged to say something, because you don't want to come here and sit and say the same the other day. Yeah.
People. End of the day, into school, there are people who are, and this. So today, make sure you are all open.
And Brian Molondo.